I'm the Master of Ceremonies for the rally today. I'm going to be introducing all of your speakers. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I spent 5 years as the Executive Director of Grassroots Gun Rights in South Carolina. I'm still very active in Second Amendment causes here in South Carolina. I run a website called EndGunFreeZonesNow.com, and I believe that gun-free zones are responsible for countless deaths. Okay? Now, we're going to get right into this. Our first speaker is somebody I've known for quite a long time. He was first elected in 2003. I can personally attest that Representative Mike Pitts has worked extremely hard to forward the cause for gun owners here in South Carolina. I've worked with him closely on several bills over the years. He is the sponsor and co-sponsor of too many pieces of program legislation for us to have time to go over here today. Please welcome Representative Mike Pitts.
How about now? Yeah. I get kind of animated sometimes when I speak about something I truly believe in. And if I get animated, it may go in and out, but that'll be okay. And I may beat myself in the head with this thing. If I do, it'll be okay to laugh. God blessed us with a beautiful day. It was sun shining in the upstate when I left, but He blessed us with a beautiful day to gather and celebrate our freedom as Americans. How many of you are veterans? Thank you. Thank you. Sure you didn't. Some of us that serve in elected office understand without the unbroken lineage of the patriots under George Washington's command to the men and women serving today, if it weren't for that unbroken lineage, we wouldn't be serving up here in this building. You know, we're here to talk about the Second Amendment, but it's a much bigger issue than just the Second Amendment. It's about freedom itself. It's about this little document, the Constitution of the United States. Folks, there's a cancer that's been eating away at your right consistently for decades. It's been taking away the sovereignty of the states and your personal liberties. There's a protection built into this document, the Constitution, and especially into our Bill of Rights. I want to talk about that just for a few minutes. The First Amendment to the Constitution. And as I speak, while I talk about this, I want you to think about the context of the times when it was written. And there are some that would say that it's an outdated document because of when it. I beg to differ with that. I don't think it is any more out of date than the sovereign word of Scripture is.
Yeah.
The First Amendment to this Constitution guarantees us the ability to do exactly what we're doing here. To assemble, to discuss the issues we are facing, to discuss politics unoppressed. It gives us the ability to worship as we choose. It gives us the ability to have a free press to disseminate information. Now, why did our founding fathers put that First Amendment in place? Because there was a guy named King George that was violating all those things. The Third Amendment. Why was the Third Amendment put in place? Because King George Redcoat soldiers were being housed in your homes, your ancestors' homes, and they had to provide and take care of those Redcoat soldiers. So the Third Amendment was put in place to guarantee that wouldn't happen. The Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment. gives you the right not to incriminate yourself, not to be put in stocks and chains until you admitted to something, until you gave up information and incriminated yourself. It gave you protection against having your homes searched warrantless. It gives you the protection of due process and jury by your peers. And on and on. And then comes the Second Amendment. Why was the Second Amendment put in place? To protect the rest of them. It gave the ability to collectively resist such oppression. And we'll talk about that a little more a little later. When Paul Revere made his famous midnight ride, what was he doing? He's screaming the redcoats were coming. Why were the redcoats coming? They were coming to disarm the people in Concord and Lexington. Why? You can't resist King George if you're not armed. There's no collective resistance. Now, folks, don't take what I'm saying wrong. I'm not advocating overthrow of a government. I'm not advocating attack on the government. I'm simply stating why our founding fathers put the Second Amendment in place to collectively resist when tyranny becomes too oppressive through the government. In the words of our founding fathers, to cast off the yoke of oppression. That's why the Second Amendment was put in place. Now, again, in the context of the times, they used the tool called a gun to feed their families. They used the tool called the gun to protect themselves, their homestead, and their families. But they also used that gun to gather as militia, Minutemen, and resist the Redcoat Army at Lexington and Concord. I believe this country and the document that I'm talking about was divinely inspired. If it were not, how can you tell me that the ragtag army under Washington's command could resist the greatest army on the face of the earth at the time? If it were not divine inspiration, how could a one-boat Navy commanded by John Paul Jones resist the greatest Navy of the time? How, and on through history, our nation has been protected. How's it been protected? Think about it. Our Navy was almost destroyed at Pearl Harbor, and then at Midway, the Navy, the remnants of it, defeated the Imperial Japanese Navy. I believe there had to be divine hand. If you read the Battle of Midway, read the history of it. Some of you may have been there. If you read that battle, you have to see a divine hand moving the chess pieces. I believe nothing of it. Folks, we are Americans, greatest nation on earth. I'll argue with anyone over that. We are special. I believe that. We are a special people. But what I say to you is this. Does that keep our government at bay and keep our government from turning on its own people? Have you ever, don't be embarrassed, has anyone here never heard of the Trail of Tears? If you've not heard of the Trail of Tears, raise your hand. Then all of you know what I'm talking about. Have any of you ever heard of the Nisei? Have you never heard of the Nisei? That was the Japanese Americans. at the beginning of World War II that were rounded up and put in concentration